Welcome yet again to our Business Law YouTube video series. My name is Christopher Neufeld of Neufeld Legal, and in this particular video series we're looking at franchising for those who are intent on pursuing a new franchise. And in particular we're going to be looking at the franchise territory. The franchise territory is that area which the franchisor has designated as you having the opportunity to operate in. Where you are operating in a fixed location, the franchise territory really pertains to where a competing business of the same franchise can locate relative to oneself. This has to come into consideration because you don't necessarily want to be promoting your competition, especially when you're spending considerable advertising money, and you don't want to have a fellow franchisee taking the benefits of your advertising or being too close in proximity to yourself that people will go to that franchise, or alternatively find that your cross marketing, they're providing discounts which are maybe not necessarily appropriate and you don't want to provide them, or just taking away your customers in general. The more important thing that I want to talk about with respect to franchise territory is with respect to service franchises. Those are franchises where you don't necessarily have a physical location, but you're going out and trying to draw customers from within your territory. So you get a designated geography, which you want to make sure is specified in the franchise documentation. And within that franchise territory, you have to try to draw customers and generate business. Now, the reason this can be problematic and why you have to research it properly is, I'll take an example without naming names of a particular quasi real estate franchise. You know, these kind of franchises where you don't necessarily have to be a realtor, apparently, but you market and sell homes for under a franchise banner. Typically they're discount real estate brokers. Well, one in particular had their franchise territory configured, and the franchise territory was not all that large. Nevertheless, there were a whole series of payment arrangements that went beyond standard royalties. There was minimum requirements, different sorts of payments that were required. And if you looked at the economics of it, and you looked at how many sales were actually going on in the franchise territory, on a rough calculation, you would actually need to be acquiring 40% or more of the sales that were going on within the territory simply to break even, given the way their economic structure was. To make a profit, you really had to be hitting in excess of 50% of the sales that were going on in the franchise territory, which is next to impossible, really. Nevertheless, this was a structure in place, and it shows you what would happen if you fail to recognize the restrictions that are imposed on you with respect to the franchise territory and the economics of it. You need to have a sufficiently large territory, although you don't want to overpay for that sufficiently large territory, so that you can draw in enough prospective clients to create the commercial revenue necessary to make your particular franchise profitable. As such, whether you have a standalone business location, or you're attempting to service the entire area as more of a franchise service, you really need to understand what the dimensions, what the qualities are of the franchise territory that you are to be assigned, and whether the franchise territory and the individuals and households within that franchise territory are going to be sufficient to make your particular franchise profitable. And if it's not going to be profitable, you really need to reconsider whether or not you want to be engaged in this particular franchise territory. You can go back to the franchisor and say, look, the territory in our estimation just does not justify our committing the money and effort that's going to go into this franchise system. And if the franchisor says, well, that's the territories we give out, you really need to reconsider whether or not this is an appropriate franchise for you to be in. Because at the end of the day, your job is not to make the franchisor money. At the end of the day, after everyone's done and paid, the objective is to make you money and make you profitable. I hope this has been insightful and provides you with the clarification and direction that you need to consider when you consider selecting a franchise, and you make this a profitable venture. And remember, if it's not the right franchise opportunity for you, do not be afraid to say no to it and move forward with your life as opposed to overcommitting. We look forward to seeing you next time, and we hope you like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel for continuing information that we hope will be beneficial to the advancement of your business. Thank you.